Now, hold on to your hats. If you have any loose articles of clothing or anything like that, hold on to those. And of course, have a hand for a railing because it will get choppier. So I'm going to try to remember them all, answer them sequentially. The first one was, if they're not feeding here, right, if there's no food source for them here, what are the calves eating? Great question. So these are mammals, right? These whales give live births and they do actually produce milk. So they produce milk for their young. But humpback whales are baleen whales, right? Which means they have these big bushy mustaches that hang from their upper jaw, made of keratin, these baleen plates. They're filter feeders. So humpback whales don't have lips, they can't suckle on their mothers. These calves can't nurse in that way. So basically, guys, what they do, the mothers produce extremely thick milk. Their milk is about 40% milk fat, so kind of the consistency of cottage cheese or a thick yogurt. So when these calves are ready to nurse, what they're going to do is they're going to go right up close to the mammary glands, which are on the stomach. They kind of nudge the mother. The mother will shoot the milk out, and the calf will gobble it up, essentially. They try to shoot it right into the calf's mouth. So that's essentially how they're feeding out here. But because the milk is so fatty and they drink gallons of it a day, I think 17 gallons a day, something like that, a lot of milk, they can actually gain a ton of weight. If they're consistently nursing, they could gain up to 5 pounds an hour. And they are actually doubling in size their first year. So a humpback whale calf is born at about 12 to 15 feet. So relatively small, especially compared to a full-grown adult. So after their first year of life, they could actually be 30 feet long. They get really big. So that was a great question. I had another question about the migration, right? I mentioned they make a 3,000-mile migration, super far. So you might be wondering as well, how do they find the Hawaiian Islands, right? How are they doing this? Once again, humpback whales are solitary creatures, so occasionally these whales will make the migration completely alone, probably more often than not. They have been known to go sometimes in groups of 3, things like that, but it is difficult to say how exactly they make this migration. So we've only been studying humpback whales for about 40 years, and there's a ton that we don't know, and we're actually learning more every single year. So if you've been on a whale watch with us before, you could be hearing new information today that you may have heard differently in the past, because we're constantly discovering new things. And that migration is one of the things that we're still not completely sure about. So we have found that when they do migrate from Alaska to Hawaii, that they make such an exact migration that it never strays more than 1 degree from their path, wow, which is extremely precise. But we're not completely positive how they do it. We think that there is some sort of communication between the whales. They are capable of vocalizing, so they could possibly be vocalizing to each other.
Are there any ocean currents?
Are there any ocean currents?
That help them?
It is very possible, yeah. So there could be ocean currents that they're following to help them. A lot of this, but we're not completely sure of though. So that is one of the great questions of... Yeah, so I hear you guys are seeing a whole bunch over there. It's possible that a couple of those are whales. Further in the distance though, most likely those are waves crashing on Kaho'olawe. You're seeing spouts? Good, well yeah, I see a couple of those out there. But those waves that crash on Kaho'olawe make huge splashes as well that we see every day, even in the summer when the whales aren't here. So it can be hard to discern, but we definitely, oh yeah, over at our 10 o'clock, saw a blow, maybe 300 yards. Second blow. I think there's at least 2 whales here.
Yo, look at it.
the pattern on that fluke, beautiful. So guys, when you see the animals arch their back like that, you can kind of see the muscle in the tail stalk. We call that a peduncle, or a caudal peduncle. So they arch that muscle, they arch their back like that. That's actually what gave humpback whales their name, humpback whales, because they make that big arch before they dive. Good question. Since they dive, how long will it be before it comes back up? So usually anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the whale, depending on their activity level. So we're not sure what these whales are up to. We just spotted them. Oh, that whale's back up at 11 o'clock. I had a great question. How long do the calves stay with their moms? Really good question. So they're actually nursing for the first 6 to 9 months of their life. And then they'll head back up to the feeding grounds with their mom. They'll learn how to feed. Every behavior that the calf learns is from the mother. The father actually has no part in raising the calf. There's that exhalation. So there's a lot of strong single moms out here in Hawaiian waters. But that calf will stay with the mom for a full year. So yeah, so she's nursing, the calf is nursing for the first 6 to 9 months. They head back to the feeding grounds together where the calf will learn to feed. Then they head back here to the Hawaiian Islands, and at that point they're most likely going to separate. So that full year is actually the longest social relationship of humpback whales. I mentioned they're solitary creatures. They don't mate for life. That mother-calf relationship is the longest lasting relationship for humpback whales. 1 year. Yeah, exactly. So the mother and calf will go to and from Alaska together. So that's one of the ways that they learn this migration, right? Passing it down through the generations. But I mentioned that the father has nothing to do with the calf. So when these animals are mating out here, it's actually very likely that both males and females will mate with multiple partners throughout this breeding season. So especially the males, they head down here with the sole purpose of mating. So they try to do that as many times as possible. And the females, if they came down here with the intention of getting pregnant, they'll most likely mate more than once, so that they know that they didn't make this migration for nothing, that they actually do get pregnant. And so it's likely that once a female is pregnant, that, oh, really close to the boat, 1 o'clock. Wow. Get ready for the tail. Did you guys see that turquoise color under the water? So those are the pectoral flippers I talked about before. Oftentimes they have white on the bottom of their pectoral flippers. Sometimes their entire pectoral flipper is white. So when the crystal clear blue water, when you look down at it, it makes that beautiful turquoise color. There's another whale a little further out from the one that just surfaced. Here he is. So these whales look like they might be kind of active, right? That was a really fast surfacing, if that's the same whale we saw, which I'm assuming it is. Good question. Do humpbacks have siblings? Yeah, it looks like we have 2 whales here. They're kind of right on top of each other. Yeah, I heard someone say they're mating. Believe it or not, we've never actually observed humpback whales mating. We don't know whether they do it at a depth or whether they dive down. Most likely we think that they dive down a little bit deeper. Oh yeah, that whale looks like he's coming closer. So the question, do humpback whales have siblings? So if a female is pregnant, she's only going to carry 1 calf at a time. But one female could get pregnant potentially every single season. So she could give birth, and right after giving birth, she could get pregnant again. However, it's very likely that once a mother and a calf separate, they don't actually see each other again. So siblings, they're definitely out there, but they just don't know that they're siblings. Right, no multiple births, just one baby. We've never observed an instance of twins or anything like that.
When a whale breaches, why does it breach?
Good question. When a whale breaches, why does it breach? So first of all, if you're not aware, a breach is when the whale jumps and brings about 2 3/4 of its body out of the water or more, flips onto its back. Pretty spectacular show. And it is kind of peculiar that they do this, and it's actually the most unpredictable behavior that humpback whales do. So we actually don't know exactly when they're going to do it, and we don't actually know exactly why they do it, but we do have theories as to why they do it. I mentioned humpback whales are about 90,000 pounds, so they're super huge animals. So when they jump out of the water and hit the surface, that is a huge sound. It makes a massive noise that can be heard. Scientists think that humpback whales can hear that noise between themselves possibly over a mile. So it's definitely thought that it's a form of communication, whether they're trying to communicate their size, trying to communicate dominance amongst the other whales, or to try to be territorial. So those are possibilities. It could be trying to, if it's a male, it could be trying to impress a female. If it's a female, it could be trying to teach its calf. So once again, everything the calf learns, it learns from its mother through repetition, through behavior we call imitation. So if you see a female breaching, when you see a little tiny whale breaching, that is a mother teaching its calf the behavior. But humpback whales are also known to be playful. We think that they could just be breaching for fun. Doesn't it look fun? Oh, we saw a big splash at 1 o'clock. Keep your eyes in that area. I'm not sure exactly what caused the splash. Oh, there it is.
They swam all the way there.
Whoa, okay guys, so...
Right there!
1 o'clock, a whale just head lunged.
Whoa.
So that humpback whale just brought its face out of the water. And what we call a head lunge.
Good job, honey.
Whale we're seeing. You guys can still see under the surface of your polarized glasses. Wow.
Come on now, baby.
Oh, and there's another one at 1 o'clock coming up right now. Oh, there's 3 whales. Oh no.
Whoa!
That is so cool. Amazing that all of these guys have those white pectoral flippers. How beautiful is that? So guys, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that what we're seeing here is possibly 2 males
fighting
in pursuit of a female.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so I say this because what is happening, these are really aggressive behaviors. These whales have been active, they've been surfacing very frequently. A head lunge is considered a very aggressive behavior. So basically, what that means is, what we're seeing is a competition pod, competition group. Whoa. Of course, I could be...
Wow, look at that.
I could be mistaken, this could also be a male. So we could be seeing 3 males, but it's really hard to tell. Basically, oh, look at that tail. So cool. So basically the only way to tell the difference between males and females, get ready for the tail, get those cameras ready. Oh, fake out. So if they were to roll and show us their stomach, females have a grapefruit-sized bump on their tummy called a hemispherical lobe, but all other reproductive organs are internalized. So that's the only way you can tell the difference between genders. However, females are actually about 10 feet longer than the males. We call this reverse sexual dimorphism. Oh my gosh, 1 o'clock, super close. Oh, excuse me, 12:30.
Yeah.
So reverse sexual dimorphism is whenever a female shows more dominant features than the male. So the reason a female would be bigger than the male, most likely, is because she has to carry the calf, right? So she needs more body mass so she can sustain the calf.
Nó còn gì đó đó. Thấy cái nước nó khác.
Maybe this one will show us its tail.
121 yards.
So that's how close that whale is. It's at 121 yards. So we're well beyond that 100, or within the 100-yard limit. So you can see just how close that is. So we can call a competition group if there are at least 3 whales, I would say, and if they're exhibiting these aggressive behaviors like we saw that head lunge, right? And they're moving in a clear direction, which means they're pursuing something. And what they're pursuing is a female, right? So that's what how we can basically identify this as a competition group. Even though we're not seeing a lot of activity right at this moment at the surface, most likely these whales are being very aggressive with each other underneath the surface. There's a lot we're not seeing. So basically the goal of a competition group is for one of these males to get closest to the female and have the rest of the males basically give up. Okay, and then the female can then choose if she wants to mate with that winning male. But in order to win kind of that leading role, these males get really aggressive. They try to hold each other down. They try to slow each other down. So to do that, sometimes they will try to make it harder for the other whales to surface, right? Trying to tire them out. Sometimes they'll slap their tails on top of each other. Sometimes they'll slap their pecks on the water. They do really aggressive movements. They try to make themselves look bigger. That's what the head lunging was. It lunged out of the water to try to basically show dominance, to try to be more intimidating to the other males. And these competition groups, these competitions themselves can last a really long time. Sometimes I've heard of them lasting longer than 20 hours.
Wow.
And I've heard of them being bigger than 30 males. So these whales, oh my gosh, straight ahead. Whoa! Another head lunge. Once again, trying to make himself look bigger. So although there's only 3 whales here right now, it is possible that other whales could hear the commotion, hear once again like the slapping on the surface, and they might join. So scientifically, in scientific papers, they've called these whales the joiners. Very creative. But if a whale gives up, if a whale in a competition pod's like, you know what, I can't take these guys, I'm gonna hit the road. There he is, 12 o'clock, 11:30. Wow. Yeah, right now you're seeing bubbles and stuff like that. But if you see like the clear white, they have white there. Okay. So if a whale gives up in a competition pod, what do you think he's called?
Loser.
Yeah, in the scientific papers they call him a loser. I don't know. So if you see a whale kind of leave the group, you can point and laugh and call him a loser.
How long is their lifespan?
Yes, thank you. I'm so sorry. She asked me that earlier. How long is their lifespan? Really good question. So we have, once again, only been studying them for 40 years. So we're not 100% sure, but we think their lifespan is similar to that of humans, maybe 40 to 60 years. Maybe we think probably longer, but we don't have enough data to prove that yet. Do any of the whales get tagged? So at Pacific Whale Foundation, we don't use any sort of invasive way of researching them. We don't put tags on them or anything like that, but other organizations will. The only issue with humpback whales and tagging them is that they are so acrobatic and they move pretty fast. Move pretty fast, okay. Move pretty fast. So it's possible for these tags to fall off, which is oftentimes the case. One of the most successful taggings happened where they were actually able to tag the whale for the duration of the migration. That's how we found that they are so precise. And these whales, that whale, actually did the migration in 39 days. That was the fastest recorded migration. So tagging can be successful, but the way that we do research here at Pacific Whale Foundation is actually based on those flukes. So you guys have had some awesome views of the flukes today. You'll start to notice that every whale has a unique fluke pattern, whether it's the shape, the size, the coloration. They could be all black, all white, but they could have scars, they could have barnacles, they could have notches taken out of them from predators, anything like that. So every single fluke is unique. You might say it's a fluke if you see 2 flukes that are the same. Ignore my jokes. So basically, we use those flukes to identify individual whales. Pacific Whale Foundation actually has the largest catalog of flukes in the North Pacific population. So we see the same whales year after year, and we can start to understand more about their all patterns of their life, whether it's about their breeding, about their calving, how frequently they calve, about their distribution. A lot you can learn just from those flukes. Oh my gosh. Well, 11 o'clock. Oh, good question. Can I tell you about the footprint? Yes. There's another whale coming up. Yeah, guys, so when these whales resubmerge, you may notice that they leave kind of a slick spot on the surface. We call that a fluke print. So just like us humans, we leave footprints in the sand. Whales leave fluke prints on the water. In Hawaiian, we call it a puka. Puka meaning hole, so they leave this very circular shape on the water. Whalers actually used to think that when whales dove like that, that was actually oil coming off of their body, right? They hunted whales for their blubber, for their oil, and they used that as fuel. There it is, 11:30. Make sure you guys have a railing to hold on to. There's a little bit of swell out here. So they actually found that it's not oil coming off of their body. There he is. So basically when they submerge just like that, that slick spot is just the displacement of water. Their huge bodies displace so much water that when it gets filled back in, it kind of sits there for a minute before the wind hits it again and starts to get a little bit choppy again. It's coming to the surface here. Oh, those whales are close together. So sometimes, not only are they super aggressive with each other, they, once again, try to hold each other under the surface. Sometimes they'll surface underneath each other. They do weird things. Another weird thing they do is something called a bubble screen. So right now you see the whites of their pectoral flippers. Sometimes you'll see a bunch of bubbles under the water that makes that turquoise color. Luke, yeah!
Got it, Bayo.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We love that. Do it again.
Can I do it again?
Do it again.
Oh, that guy.
Good job.
Make sure to hold on to something, guys. A little bit of roll here. Okay, so sometimes you'll see a turquoise color come into the surface. You think it's one of their pectoral flippers, when in fact it's called a bubble screen. So they shoot bubbles out of their blowholes, and they basically do this to kind of distract the whales around them, try to disorient them. Sounds kind of silly, but it seems to work. So if you're ever snorkeling and you kick bubbles in someone else's face, or if someone kicks bubbles in your face, it is very disorienting. You'll realize. So these whales kind of have that same mechanism. Yeah, that guy's real close to us at our 11:30. You guys see that dark shape under the water? That's a whale. There he is. He's coming right at us, guys.
Come on.
This is awesome. This is the best whale watch I've had in days. You guys are lucky. So that whale just dove a little bit, but I can still see him, okay? So if you're on the bow, look down. You might see him under the water. Unless he turns around. Those pectoral flippers that they have are really good at maneuvering around the water. Okay, I lost him. I don't see him. Unless... It's always good to look down sometimes. example of the fluke print that we can see at our 11 o'clock, that weird slick circle. Excellent question. Where was the largest recorded whale? It actually was not in the North Pacific population. It was in the Atlantic population. And it was a female, and she was about 50 feet long. So that's where we get that number, 45 to 50 feet. The largest was a 50-foot female. Really good question. What's the population of humpback whales? So in our North Pacific population, we actually have 22,000 whales right now. Yeah. Definitely deserves applause because, like I mentioned earlier, their population got down to about 1,000 animals. So that's a huge, huge jump. So basically, these animals were put on the endangered species list in the 1960s, and that was when the population was down to around 1,000. So it's been, what, about 50-something years now, and it's made that jump from 1,000 to 22,000. That's an amazing comeback. That's an amazing success story. In fact, last year, they were actually removed from the Endangered Species Act, so from that list. And we didn't really agree with that at Pacific Whale Foundation. We think that it's important to keep them on there, keep that protection for them, because before they got down to 1,000 animals, it was estimated that their population was close to 100,000 whales. So we're only a fraction of the way back to restoring it to its original state. So we're not sure what taking them off of the endangered species list could mean for them. Of course, there is a moratorium on whaling, so it is illegal to whale, right? Any species of whale. Unfortunately, there are still cases of illegal whaling. But there are a lot of threats to humpback whales today besides whaling. And they are human threats, so pollution in our oceans is a huge issue still. And actually, one of the biggest threats to them right now is actually entanglement, and entanglement from fishing gear and fishing lines. 2 o'clock, there was a surfacing. It's possible that those are our whales. It could be a different whale. Obviously, competition groups are characterized by really fast-moving whales, right? They're pursuing a female, so I think that those are different whales, personally. But they can swim fast if they want to. So whales usually, a slow swim is anywhere from 2 to 3 miles per hour. A fast swim is up to 8 miles per hour. But they can reach speeds of up to 20 miles per hour in short bursts. They can't sustain that for long, but that's pretty fast if you think about it. But we're going to do something really cool here while these whales are down. We're dropping our hydrophone, which is an underwater microphone. So basically, this is going to pick up any sounds that we can hear within a 2 to 3 mile radius, so pretty far. So we'll drop it in, and we'll see what we can hear. Now, humpback whales actually do have a song that they sing. I'm sure you've heard this before. They do have a song. They do vocalize. However, the whales we're seeing around us right now are very active, so they're not going to be singing. They're not going to be the singers. They could be making some vocalizations between each other, maybe some grunting sounds, who knows. But they're not doing that kind of famous song. But there could be whales within this 2 to 3 mile radius that are. So we'll listen in and see what we can hear. And do we have any keiki on board? That's the Hawaiian word for children. I know I saw a couple. Do we want some? Can I have some volunteers? I know I see one right here. Want to help out? You're gonna help us with our hydrophone. We got one right here. Sure, come on down. We'll see how many kids we can stuff in this corner here. All right. Jade.
Emma. Chelsea. Okay, let's take this first and then we will. So we got one for this, then this, and we're gonna hold this and that.
I can't come and play it, but I read a book of a humpback whale named Ivan who got
Really?
Here. Yeah, good job. We're gonna pull that hydrophone out of the water. But pretty cool, guys. We got a pretty good listen into the underwater world. Did you guys